No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
When the irresistible force meets the immovable object, something has got to give. And what gave tonight is the St. Louis Blues winning streak. Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Along with Dave Manouk, along with Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel, here to discuss one of the most tight-checking, entertaining, playoff-style games that we have seen this season. The Winnipeg Jets, battered, bruised, without 4 players in their lineup, without 4 regulars in their lineup, they go and pull out a 3-1 victory over the visiting St. Louis Blues to move 5 points ahead of the Dallas Stars in the battle for the Central Division. Gentlemen, great to see you both on this Monday evening hell of a hockey game in downtown Winnipeg tonight.
Yeah, boys, sometimes 2-1 games are boring. This game was not, and the Blues are not going streaking in downtown Winnipeg. As Drew mentioned, the Jets end that 12-game winning streak, and we had the comment up from our buddy Derek McGoran. When you hold the hottest team in the league to 15 shots on net, you're doing something right. And it wasn't like a complete defensive shutdown game. It was because the Jets were on the offensive in that third period, guys, especially the first half of the third period, or even, the first 2/3 of that third period, because obviously the Blues had their push late in the game, and then they pulled Joel Hofer, who, by the way, Joel Hofer is having a very underrated season. He was 5-0-0 in his previous 5 starts. I think he's up to 14 or 15 wins on the season. So obviously Jordan Binnington is the number 1 goalie for the Blues, but Winnipeg's Joel Hofer is having a nice season as the backup there in St. Louis, a big part of the reason why they're going to the playoffs this year. So just wanted to get that in there. But yeah, a very impressive game by the Jets. Kyle Connor was an absolute beast tonight, guys. And look, you don't have Nick Ehlers, you don't have Gabe Vilardi. Colin Miller was out. Obviously, Vilardi and Ehlers are more significant pieces, but I thought
don't forget Neil Pionk too.
Yeah, Neil Pionk, and obviously, later, guys, we'll get into the good news coming out of Canada Life Center today. Dave M was all over it for illegalcurve.com. Looks like Pionk is going to be back, maybe even as early as the game on Thursday. Fingers crossed. And then obviously Vilardi, it looks like he's going to be back on the ice pretty soon. But I just thought that this was such a good bounce back, Dave, from the game against Utah, because let's be honest. I mean, the game against Utah was a stinker. They did not play well. They gave up a couple power play goals. That was not a good end to the road trip, but I thought they rebounded well. Were completely dominated in the first period. The high danger chances were 7-0 for the Jets. And then obviously, they only had 1 goal to show for it, but they easily could have had a few more. So overall, just top to bottom, a great performance by the Jets, ending that long winning streak by the Blues.
First of all, I like this comment by Fast Eddie. Jobu is being sacrificed now. That's very funny from Major League, of course, that the Blues had the Jobu bobblehead in there. I think it was a bobblehead in there.
Dave, Jobu is being run over at Portage and Maine right now.
But that was a really interesting hockey game. And one of the things that I thought was fascinating to me was how relentless the Jets were in that third period. And not defending the lead they went up 2-1 and they didn't sit back and wait for the Blues to attack. And that's not to say that the Blues didn't get their chances. They surely did, as you'd expect a team that's playing the way they're playing, 18-2-2. I mean, it's fascinating. We had Jeremy Rutherford on last week, and that was a great guest to have because he gave us some insight how the Blues were doing. But when I was setting up the pregame report today, the Blues were 3-6-1 heading into that Four Nations break. And they're 18-2-2 since. And what's interesting is that, of course, the first game they played that February 22nd was that shootout loss they suffered to the Winnipeg Jets. So this team has been unbelievable. And obviously they lost Dylan Holloway to a long-term, or he's week to week, I think. So that was kind of tough news for them. But for the most part, they're healthy. And honestly, they're a very good hockey team. Joel Hofer, and I know he's a Winnipegger, boy, does he handle the puck a lot. That was one of
Yes.
the topics of conversation for us in the press box.
And he was coughing it up as well, Dave. A couple of times, it almost resulted in a good scoring chance for the Jets.
Absolutely. But, in that first period, you talk about the Jets having the 7-0 high danger advantage. The Jets had the puck, and I don't know what I didn't look yet to see what the possession numbers were yet, but it was like
in the first period, you mean?
Well, yeah, and in the first period, and it was
80%, 31-8 were the attempted shots in the Jets' favor in the first period.
And it was crazy because at one point the Jets were out shooting them by a ton, but like you said, Drew, the shots on net. I think the Blues also had 12 block shots in that first period or something, 12 or 14, whatever the number. I don't know where it finished, but it was unbelievable. And, to me, I think it's as a statement by the Winnipeg Jets. And I don't mean that hyperbolically. I'm not getting all like, plan the parade sort of situation. But what I mean by that statement is this Jets team rebounds. They have a poor performance, which again, we haven't seen a lot of. Remember, as Drew said, this is the 51st time in franchise history that they've won 53 games. And there's still time to add to that with the remaining 4 games on the schedule. But the fact of the matter is that this team has now won 53 games for the first time, 17-18. And last season, they got to 52 in game 82. This team's now won 53. So for me, what they were able to do, like you guys just said, you put away that Utah loss. It was a bad loss. There's no denying it, but you've put it away. And like you said, Drew, the high danger, the advanced stats were well in the Jets' favor. I was looking at it either the first or second, but to me, that was the idea that you can put it away. You have the good game against Vegas. Sure, you don't replicate it afterwards against Utah, but now you go and have a really good game against St. Louis.
Well, this was a small spaces game. This was a game that was won. There was no ice out there to be had. There was nobody skating freely through the neutral zone. Shane Knighty on the broadcast mentioned that multiple times, that every inch of the ice was highly contested. And for the Winnipeg Jets to win those battles, they won those puck battles. They won so many of those small spaces battles, and that's how you win in the playoffs. I mean, again, playoffs are tight checking. We know that the playoffs are not usually run and gun pond hockey style of action.
Unless you're playing Colorado.
Well, unless that's fine. Unless you're playing Colorado, but good luck to you if you play that way against them. But this was a very tight check. Look, the Jets held St. Louis to 15 shots on goal. I don't care who you're playing in the NHL. But if you can hold your opponent to 15 shots on goal for the entirety of 60 minutes, you are doing all the small things correctly. And to do those small things correctly without...
If you keep saying all the small things, we're going to play Blink 182 in the background.
You can start singing if you want. That's up to you. But I'm saying that if you're doing that without 4 key members in your lineup, and frankly, I was surprised that Ehlers didn't play. I thought he was going to be in the lineup today, especially when he was taking line rushes at this morning's skate. They're obviously holding him out. Will he play on Thursday? Time will tell. We do not know. But for the Jets to come away with this kind of effort and this kind of victory, with 4 guys out of your lineup against a highly motivated St. Louis Blues team, says a lot about the Winnipeg Jets. It says a lot about their mindset. It says a lot about their focus and where they know that their game needs to be at for 10 days from now, maybe 2 weeks from now, which is playoff time. So they are fine-tuning their details, and I think you saw that tonight in how they were always in the right spot for the most part against St. Louis in the course of the 60 minutes tonight.
That was a classic soliloquy by Drew right there. I was loving it. You're absolutely right, Drew. I agree with everything you said there. And we had the comment up from Dietermeister. I thought Brandon Tanev's play was kind of indicative of the whole team's play, right? Like he had that big hit on Nick Leddy in the first period, right? Like he was mixing it up. He was hit from behind by Braden Shen. I thought that should have been a penalty. That was in was that in the third period? Forget which period that was in, but he was hit from behind at the Jets.
I think it was the third, Ezzy.
Yeah, it was the third, right?
Yeah,
so
Tanev was not happy about that.
He was involved. Remember, he was blocking shots. He got a standing ovation from the Jets crowd. Like Tanev was feeling it tonight. And obviously, the fourth line comes through. We'll get into that in the Play Now game recap. Drew, if you have to interrupt me, I see some.
I will.
movement
Scott
there.
Arneal is about to join us from the Matt Frost Media Center for his post-game comments. So once he's there, I will interrupt you. You can keep going, Ezzy. I'm watching the backstage here.
Yeah, I just see a lot of movement there. I'm not sure whose head that was. I'm not sure if that was Weber's or Connor Horabchek or
not Weber's. He's not in town.
Oh, he's not in town. Right. Okay, so it's not him, but I see some.
That's
some
Judy Owen.
Okay. But regardless, yeah, it was just a very impressive performance by the Jets. And like Dave said, I think I was most impressed that after Alex Iafallo got that goal, the Jets did not take the foot off the gas. They were all over. There was shift after shift. The Connor Scheifele Iafallo line, I thought that was probably their best game since that line has been put together, obviously in Gabe Velarde's absence, right? So really impressive. I really liked the Sandberg-Shen pairing. They were out there against the Blues top line, oftentimes that top line being, of course, Thomas, Buchnevich, and Snuggerud. And obviously that line got a goal, and they had a good scoring chance late in the third period. But I thought for the most part, that line...
Scott Arneal.
Hey there.
Scott, Morgan was asked kind of what went well out there today. Morgan Barron said that forecheck was good, everybody back-checked hard, D-gapped up real well. And it basically takes everybody to do that. What does it feel like, kind of a vibes emotional question, when you see all of your guys kind of playing connected like that?
Yeah, that was a really solid 60 minutes of, going out in 5-man units and out battling and, getting zone time on the opposition. Everybody kind of figured out after the first period who their matchups were, who they were going head to head, and I thought all 4 lines won their matchups, and along with the D-men, obviously. And you know what? When you do that with 20 guys doing that, that's that's a tough team to beat.
How did you spend so much of that first period in their zone?
We got on our forecheck is one way. We didn't. We got pucks through the neutral zone. They've done a really good job watching them the last few games. Obviously on their streak, they've turned pucks over a lot, especially through that neutral zone area. And you know what? This Central Division teams, each other pretty well, and we just tried to make sure that we got pucks down below the hash marks and made them really have to work, and try to get us to, try to force us or them to make mistakes, force them to make mistakes, keep them in that. We did a good job of spreading that zone out.
And just one on your top line was there for their goal, and your top line also, when things got tough, got you the game winner.
It's been one of the best lines. I'm talking about, that Thomas line has been one of the best lines here since coming over the Four Nations. And, I love the fact when Scheif and those guys go up against the other team's top line and do what they do. That was it was a good goal that they scored. Just a bang play. But the fact that they came back, and scored against them as well. The zone time for that, our top 5, they were out against, they were in their end of the rink and forcing them to defend. And when you can force the opposition's top 6 forwards to play in their end of the rink, it goes a long way towards success.
What do you think has clicked for, what about Morgan Barron's game has kind of led to this, what seems to be a seamless transition to him being an impact player down the middle?
Yeah, he's always said he's a natural centerman, but I think everybody was when they were playing junior or college. But no, you know what? He's taken on this role, and he is just, he's embraced it. Shown us a lot of really good things, strong on draws. You see some more of his speed. Seems to come out of the middle. You see a lot more of his speed, and just doing the right things. He's playing heavy, playing hard. I like that move. Instead of bailing out and going behind the net, sticks his leg out and drives inside. And that's, those for big power forwards, you like to see guys do that.
How important is it to have, you mentioned his speed, he's got the speed, but also once he gets into the zone, he's really strong at holding on to pucks and forechecking. That sort of blend, it's kind of rare to find in a lot of fourth-line centers, is it not?
Well, I think obviously there's some good ones around the league, but I think when it comes to the part of holding on to pucks, we emphasize that, don't just throw pucks away, have a plan. Obviously different teams, if somebody's man on man or other teams are playing forms, you got to move it quick. But when they have size like that, you guys have asked me about Gabe, or you've asked me about Lau. I mean, those big body guys, when they use their size and their length of their stick to kind of protect the puck, they're hard to play against.
And just one more on me. Brandon Tanev, it's been a month of him back with the Jets. Fair to say he's kind of come as advertised, a couple big blocks tonight, and it seems like we get that every night with him.
Yeah, we Energizer Bunny. I mean, he just go, a couple of big hits in that first period, some real big hits. You know, they're against the Shen line, another top-end line, and I thought they did a great job, him being physical. They had some D looking over their shoulder when they're going back to get pucks, and then obviously in the penalty kill, big shot block, he just does it. You know, he stays it. It doesn't matter if he gets hit once, twice, or 3 times, he's going to jump back in that lane.
Some milestone moments in that game. The team's franchise record 53rd win. I mean, how gratifying is it to at least reach that achievement?
It's gratifying, but it's stuff for after the year. You know, we're still after something here. We're still trying to get that division, and this was another step towards it. You know, it's amazing that we're at game 53 and we still haven't clinched the division. That's how good our division is. So it's just move off of this one, move on to the next one. You know, we'll go down and do our business down in Dallas. But you know what? It's a great accomplishment. But like we keep talking about, I know you guys don't like to hear it. It's move on. It's part of business. Get on to the next one.
And Adam Lowry, even though into an empty net, career high 16th goal.
Yeah, real happy for him. Obviously, he does an awful lot for us. A lot of the heavy lifting, a lot of the leadership role, and then to have a year like this, that's been great. And yeah, he's had some great looks in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and just to finally see him get it, that's great. Right, thank you.
A happy Winnipeg Jets coach in Scott Arneal joining us tonight on the Illegal Curve post-game show live from the Matt Frost Media Center in downtown Winnipeg. Winnipeg Jets 3-1 victors over the St. Louis Blues. We welcome everybody back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. It's presented by our friends at Play Now. Learn to bet with Play Now, the official betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets. Sign up and get up to $250 in bonus bets. Conditions apply. 18 plus. Enjoy responsibly. I was thinking as I was watching that game, it's a good thing that the Jets have Tuesday, Wednesday, and then face Dallas on Thursday, because it's going to take a good 48 hours to come back and heal up from some of those bumps and bruises in what was a tight checking, shot block filled effort tonight by the Winnipeg Jets in beating the St. Louis Blues. No free ice was given here, which is, I think, just the exact kind of game you want to see happen. You want to experience that kind of game in the lead up to this run to the playoffs, Ezzy.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, Drew, an extra 24 hours for Nikolai Ehlers to heal up, right? I think based on what we were talking about earlier, I mean, it seems like Ehlers should be ready, right, Dave? If it looked like he was going to be ready for tonight's game, you'd think by Thursday he'll be ready to go, and they're going to need him because obviously that's going to be a huge game. But tonight's 2 points are huge, guys, right? Like, obviously, you know, the Stars have a game in hand, but being 5 points up now gives the Jets some breathing room, right? It doesn't.
And they got more regulation. More regulation wins. They're at 42 now.
Right. I didn't know that. I wasn't paying attention to that. But Dave, that's why you always make me look good. But just a huge game. And like I was saying before, guys, before we went to Scott Arneal, and big shout out to Colby Spence, by the way, always providing the beautiful visuals. Just a great bounce back effort from the game against Utah. I obviously didn't do the post game show with you guys, but I mean, that was one of the more disappointing games, I would say, in recent memory. So a good bounce back game and just impressive performances by a variety of Jets. We talked about it, not just the Scheifele, Connor, Iafallo line. A little bit of a quieter night for the Nemestikov, Perfetti line. Not saying that in a negative way. It was not the most high event night for that trio.
They had the lowest possession numbers of any of the Jets forward lines. They were only at 56%.
Right.
The other 3 Jets forward lines, Iafallo, Scheifele, and Connor. And Kyle Connor was incredible in today's game.
He was.
They had a 76%. The expected goals for them was 87%. Tanev, Lowry, and Appleton, even better, 92%. And same with Gustafson, Barron, and Jared Anderson-Dolan at 92%. The Jets were on top of their game tonight is really what this was. And it was from start to finish. And it was a close game. And certainly, I mean, look, St. Louis had golden opportunity in the last 30 seconds of the game after Mason Appleton missed on that empty net. St. Louis very easily
Buchnevich.
Came back and scored a goal. Connor Hellebuck was obviously up for the challenge, but the Jets really were the better of the 2 teams in the course of tonight's game. And that's what you've seen from this team. It's the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, ever since they clinched the playoffs. it's sort of hard to get up for certain games. But every time that they've had a stinker, they've had a real solid effort afterwards. The bad game against LA, they come back against Vegas, Dave, and they dominate the Golden Knights. Bad game against Utah, they have this great win on home ice against St. Louis. You can see that they are dialed in. You can see where their focus is, that if they blink, they don't blink, and it doesn't become a 2 or a 3 or a 4 game losing streak. They get right back on their details the next game. And of course, their details are really going to need to be at their peak for Thursday night against the Dallas Stars. Boston Pizza, Taylor Avenue, Illegal Curve watch party, Illegal Curve post-game show. Thursday night, we'll see everybody there for that.
You mean the slumping Dallas Stars, Drew? They lost to Pittsburgh. They barely got a point against Minnesota the next day. So they're in, I think, are they playing in Vancouver tomorrow, or is it
they're at home?
Dallas.
They're home to Vancouver.
Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they got the Canucks tomorrow. The Canucks played a better game, even though we know they're done. But we'll be watching that one, of course. But again, I think one of the things that Scott Arneal talked about was this idea that they, because he was asked about it in the morning and media availability today, was, can you be scoreboard watching? Can you be watching what other teams are doing and try? He goes, well, it didn't really do us much good in Utah when they knew that Pittsburgh had defeated them. So this team wants to control their own destiny, and they do that by adding points to the standings bank. That's what they have to do. They can't really worry about anybody else. If they keep winning, it doesn't matter what happens with Dallas. Dallas can't catch them. They have more points. They don't have enough games in hand. So ultimately, if the Jets control their own destiny, they don't want to focus on what anybody else. That's what they've done all season long.
But Dave, is it controlling your own? What is destiny if you control it, though?
We've heard this. We've heard this before, Socrates. We don't need to go into it.
We've done this bit before.
Yeah, exactly. You need to get some new material. Nobody wants to hear that bit again.
So,
anyways, Ovaltine more like round team.
Anyway, so this was a game again, and it was great crowd again. Crowd that appreciated. Sold out, 6 straight sellout, 14th of the season. So the folks were clamoring for the game of course, on Prime. Maybe more folks wanted to come to the game because they don't have Prime at home but ultimately this was
shout out to my sister and nephew who were at the game.
There we go. Gil was there. But the fact of the matter is that if you look at this game, and like you said, Drew, I think the key to me was just how well the Jets responded. And as Scott Arneal detailed from the Matt Frost Media Center, which we brought to you live, the fact is that it was every single line. He went through it, and he said every line dominated their opponent. And I thought that was real telling because, one of the things that you need to be, again, that was that idea of relentlessness that I said about in the third period. And, St. Louis didn't have an answer for Winnipeg. And that was and again, I want to be clear, Connor Hellebuck had to make some real nice saves. When it was 1-1, I think it was either during the penalty kill or right after. I think it was during the penalty kill. I will say one thing about the officiating, because I thought it was remarkable how in the first period, the officials were great. Then all of a sudden, in the second period, it was like they went from allowing things to go, and then they started calling a tight game. I'm like, what is going on here? And they were calling things that weren't penalties. Yeah. I'm like, this is terrible. And then
the
all
Justin
of a sudden,
Falk interference penalty, Dave, was like
insane.
He was just standing there.
Yeah. Yeah. Morgan Barron was crossing the ice and they collided, and yet somehow it's interference. And then all of a sudden it went back to the old standard, which I would preferred, which was just let them play. And if it's egregious, fine. But otherwise let them go. And like I said, this was a Jets team that played real well. And ultimately you pick up the win, you get that edge on the Stars, which again, if you can continue to hold the tiebreakers, is really more than 5 points. It's actually 6 points if you have the tiebreakers, right? Over the Stars.
Depending on what happens between Dallas and Vancouver tomorrow. And it's worth noting that, as Dallas has been playing some good hockey as of late, if you look at their underlying numbers, they're actually exceeding their underlying numbers. Their underlying numbers aren't as good as their record has been lately. So analytically, they haven't been as good, but the points are still in the standings bank for the Dallas Stars. But
look at Drew bringing out PDO.
Well, I mean, it's true. Their PDO has been exceptionally high as of late. But if Vancouver were to do the Jets a big favor tomorrow and win in Dallas, which I would not expect to happen necessarily, the Jets could clinch the division with a regulation time victory on Thursday night. Now, that's getting ahead of ourselves because Dallas and Vancouver still have to do battle tomorrow, but that's really where the stakes are at. Everyone knows where the stakes are. And this was a huge game for the Jets because you certainly don't want to be going into Thursday night with Dallas only 1 point behind you in the standings. You do have a little bit of that breathing room as a result of tonight's victory, that even no matter what happens on Thursday, no matter what happens on Tuesday between the Stars and the Canucks, the Jets know they're going to be going into Chicago on Saturday night, at least still in first place in the Central Division. That's what tonight's victory means for the Winnipeg Jets, in addition to all the other good feelings that they get from a quality victory against a quality opponent, and really shutting down that quality opponent, holding him to 15 shots total in the course of the 60 minutes of tonight's contest. Let's get into the goal-by-goal recap. We do this on each and every edition of the Illegal Curve postgame show.
The Play Now game recap.
Big thanks to our friends at Play Now. They're the title sponsor of all of our programming. We encourage you to, of course, bet with Manitoba's local, legal, and secure gambling site. That is playnow.com. No score after 20 minutes. Shots on goal, though, 8-3 for the Winnipeg Jets. The Corsi numbers were even more one-sided after 20 minutes. Basically, the Winnipeg Jets controlled thoroughly that first period, outchancing the St. Louis Blues 7-0 in terms of high danger chances. So the Blues were fortunate to be tied 0-0 after 20 minutes, and the Jets could probably say, this is the kind of period, this is the kind of performance we need to replicate in periods 2 and 3.
Yeah, absolutely. I made a note here. There was a really good chance for Cole Perfetti where Joel Hofer had to make that pad save. I think it was here, if I have my notes, I forget who got the puck through, if it was DeMello or somebody else, but there was that chance, which was glorious. But yeah, I mean, the Jets were they were perfecting the low to high, right? Like, I think there was one shift where Luke Shen had like 4 shots that were blocked by Blues forwards, right? So it was a lot of zone time, a lot of possession time. And even though the Jets don't score in the first period, they were doing all of the things that you want to be doing, right? You want to have like a smart forecheck. You want to have the Blues on their heels. You want to make sure that, the Blues aren't really having any sustained zone time. Like, really, it was one of the more impressive first periods in recent memory, because let's be honest, guys, the starts have not been the Jets' forte, right? Like, we can point to several games just in recent memory where the Jets have gotten behind a goal. Obviously, they're able to tie it up and come back. But yeah, you're right, Drew. They did everything, I should say, but score a goal in that first period, as you mentioned, with the high danger chances being 7-0. It was really Joel Hofer and just the Blues in front of him blocking shots, the only reason why the Jets weren't able to get a goal. But that's what you want to do coming off of that poor performance against Utah. And obviously you want to get the home crowd behind you. So I thought the Scheifele-Connor IFLO line, not only did they get on the board later in the third period, but you could see that they were on tonight from puck drop.
Yeah, no question about it. They were engaged. Again, like I said earlier on the post-game show, this was a small spaces hockey game. Stick battles, stick checks. That was the key to tonight's game. And the Jets really were on the right side of those battles for the majority of tonight's contest. We do remind everybody, almost 600 of you watching live tonight on this Monday night, to smash the like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. Be sure to set your notifications, turn them on, because we go live after each and every Winnipeg Jets game, and again on Saturday mornings. And of course, with the playoffs right around the corner, each and every home game will see us at City Place in downtown Winnipeg. We will be there for the Illegal Curve pregame show, so lots of Illegal Curve content coming your way. You best smash the like button, subscribe, and turn your notifications on. 0-0 after 20 minutes. As we mentioned, the Jets deservingly get the opening goal. It comes at the 2:34 mark of the second period. Morgan Barron gets his 7th of the season assist to Josh Morrissey. It starts with a great defensive play by Barron at the defensive blue line. Then Morrissey chips it up to him, and Morgan Barron has a half a step on Matthew Joseph of the St. Louis Blues. But Barron goes hard. He drives hard on towards the net. He doesn't take the long route. He takes the short route. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and he's going on a straight line on this rush, and he beats Joel Hofer with the shot to make it 1-0 for the Winnipeg Jets. It gives the Jets the lead. It gives us our Seagram shot of the game.
the Seagram shot of the game.
Big thanks to our friends at Seagram's for their support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. Seagram's VO, much like the Jets' defensive effort in tonight's contest, masterfully blended, distinctly Canadian. 1-0 for the Jets after this Morgan Barron goal, Dave.
Yeah, and it was funny because we were watching it, and Mike McIntyre, who sits just 2 over from us, kind of was like, "Oh well," didn't think he was going to be able to get that angle, and sure enough, Morgan Barron sure did get that angle, and he caught it far side. So, you like the movement, and he put his head down and he went for what he thought was possible, and that is just, I think, a player playing with a lot more confidence. I know he scored more goals last year than he has this year. That was his 7th goal of the season. But to me, I just like the fact that you just saw a guy who, again, like, I don't know that he would have necessarily made that play. And I just like the fact that he put his head down, went to the net, took that shot. It was a good shot. I don't know if the stick kind of, impacted it or not, like the stick from the defender, but regardless of that, it's a real nice shot from Barron, and it got that crowd going. And that crowd was, like I said, they were amped up, they were ready. And as he said, they were excited. They wanted to react on Cole Perfetti's really good chance in that first period. They were given kudos, by the way. Mark Scheifele they gave him a stand. I don't know if they gave him a standing O, but there was a lot of applause for his 800th point, which he picked up in Utah, and a little Manuk potpourri as Mark Scheifele, now the all-time games played leader, which is what I tried to do with Joe Pascucci the other day when you guys weren't on the show, but I got my stats mistaken, and of course. So he played in game 875.
You can't go stat versus stat against Joe Pascucci.
I wasn't trying to go stat versus stat.
But
Joe kind of corrected me on something, and I was like, oh. Then I realized I was talking about this one, so I was already thinking about the games played. So he's
remember back in the day going up against Stump the Schwab? That's like Joe Pascucci. That's like he is the Winnipeg Jets historian.
He is. So that's why I was like, as soon as he said it, I was like, oh yeah, Joe, you're probably right. So anyways, Mark Scheifele moves ahead of Blake Wheeler, 875. He's the all-time Jets 2.0. And he, of course, will pass. Who's got the most games for the Jets all time wearing a Winnipeg Jets jersey? Anyone?
Thomas Steen.
How many, though?
Well, I saw your tweet, Dave, so I think it was 925.
No, you did 950. All right.
Can we go back to the goal, though? I think I don't know if I was like more impressed by the individual effort by Morgan Barron or the fact that I don't know if you guys caught this. Dan Robertson just posted the Halifax, the Nova Scotia flag. Did you guys see that?
I didn't see that. No,
that's pretty funny.
Nova Scotia representing between Dan and Morgan Barron there, of course.
Absolutely, yeah, the great province of Nova Scotia, right? So, I mean, I can't add too much to what Drew or Dave said there. I mean, it was just an incredible steal off of Joseph, a nice little kind of poke pass by Josh Morrissey up to Barron, and then he takes over and then just uses his big body and Matthew Joseph is not a small guy either, and Barron just out muscles him to the net, and like you said, Dave, kind of a not the easiest angle for him, but beats Joel Hofer off the post blocker side, right? So. Just you love to see that, right? Because Dave mentioned Barron's offensive totals are a little bit down from last year, but I don't think that means he hasn't had a good season because he's been a staple of that fourth line. He obviously plays in a variety of different situations, right? He kills penalties as well, right? So I think it's just nice to see him get rewarded. And he had a strong game. Aside from that, I thought the fourth line, Jared Anderson-Dolan, obviously not a guy that has been a regular in the Jets lineup. He's obviously in the lineup because Ehlers is not in the lineup. And I thought that they were good. There was a few times where they had some sustained pressure in the blue zone. But yeah, a beauty goal and definitely an easy pick for the Seagram shot of the game.
Yes, definitely. 1-0 for the Jets at that point in time. It takes the Blues just under 5 minutes to tie the game up at 1. Pavel Buchnevich, his 18th of the season, assist to Robert Thomas and Philip Broberg. It's a strong forecheck by the St. Louis Blues. And Luke Shen, it tries to just feed the puck up the wall. It ends up getting intercepted by Broberg, who beats Alex Iafallo, feeds it in deep to Robert Thomas. Robert Thomas, one of the best playmakers in the NHL. He finds Pavel Buchnevich, who's had a bit of a quiet year in terms of goal scoring compared to some previous years, only his 18th on the year, but he beats Connor Hellebuck with it to tie the game up at 1 goal apiece. This at the 7:27 mark of the second period, Ezzy.
Yeah, and maybe it's just me. I'm always thinking about Team Canada, but I mean, is Robert Thomas not a really good option for Team Canada at the 2026 Olympics? Like,
well, Robert Thomas has been the I think he's got the most points scored for a Canadian forward since the Four Nations Cup.
and Mark Scheifele isn't that far behind either, right? And so I wouldn't be surprised if both of those guys. I mean, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here. It's 10 months away or whatever it is. But I've always liked Robert Thomas. He's having a monster season, and like you said, Drew, it's a turnover. But again, I don't really have a big problem with what Luke Shen does here, because he's just trying to get the puck to IFL on the boards, and it's just a good pinch by Broberg, and it's just a nifty pass by Robert Thomas to Buchnevich in the slot. Like, was the Jets' defensive coverage great there? I mean, it was Scheifele and Connor that were out there. I mean, it was a little soft, I'll be honest with you. I don't want to pick on that line too much, because I thought they were excellent throughout the game. But, it was a little bit too easy, I thought, for Buchnevich just to kind of walk into the slot there. But again, it's just a nifty play. Buchnevich had a scoring chance right before that, right? And this is the Blues' top line. Like, these guys are big reasons why the Blues won 12 games in a row heading into this game, right? So, yeah, that was maybe the one play in this game where you kind of could point to it and say, the Jets were maybe not as tight defensively as they could have been there. But aside from that, like you said earlier, Drew, this game was almost just as one-sided as they come.
Yeah.
Even though the score was only 3-1.
Right. Even though it was a close game, the Jets were the better of the two teams. And this was an opportunity, one of the few opportunities where the Jets maybe had a little bit gave up some open ice. They gave up some free space on the ice, and St. Louis was able to take advantage of it. But it certainly was not something that was happening on many occasions in the course of tonight's contest, Dave. But 1-1 at that point in time, and that's where the second period ended. 1-1. The Jets, each team.
Sure, I just want to.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, the only thing I would add, though, again, like I said, I had the comments up earlier from a number of folks who were basically talking about how the Jets limited the shots, and again, that was especially impressive in the third period. But I thought that even though there weren't a ton of quality chances, like I said, I thought Connor Hellebuck came up big when he needed to, and he made a couple of real nice saves, right, Ezzy? And if I recall correctly, would that be his 44th win? I think it's.
Yep. Yeah, it's 44.
So I think that's the second time in his career he's matched his career high, his franchise high, I should say. And so, he needs one more to set his record. He most likely doesn't get to the Marty Brodeur and Braden Holtby record of 48, but still pretty impressive for what he's been able to do.
I think, like you said earlier, Dave, or in the past, I should say, Connor Hellebuck will take the Stanley Cup over the single season wins record, right? I don't think he cares that much about that. No. He'll take the Vezina, he'll take the Jennings, and he'll take Lord Stanley's Holy Grail, right?
There we go.
I would say that's probably the case, no question about it. The Jets kill off two penalties in the course of this game. The Brandon Tanev penalty in the second period for cross-checking. Then Justin Falk, he takes an interference, so it's 4-on-4. There were no, and then in the third period, so the third period begins, it's 1-1. Vlad Nemesnikov takes that high sticking penalty. And I thought the Jets did a real nice job on this penalty kill. Yep. They really limited St. Louis. They were, St. Louis had some zone time for the first maybe 30 or so seconds of the power play, 30 to 40 seconds. The Jets did a good job keeping it to the outside. And then once they got that first clear, St. Louis really wasn't able to set anything up for the remainder of that power play. So a really nice job by the Jets special teams and penalty kill in limiting St. Louis, especially with that opportunity in the third period. And then the Jets take advantage. We've been talking about it all game. The small spaces, the stick work by the Winnipeg Jets. That is what the game-winning goal was all about. It was about the Jets winning puck battles, the Jets turning pucks over, about Kyle Connor having absolutely no panic in his game, and the ability for him to stick handle in a phone booth to find some soft ice. He does, and Alex Iafallo gets his 14th of the year on the rebound. But again, it starts with the Jets winning a battle in the corner. Mark Scheifele doesn't get an assist on it, but he really should. He's in there on the forecheck against Buchnevich that forces the turnover. Kyle Connor goes and picks up the puck. He's the one who gets it into the middle of the ice, and then Iafallo deposits the rebound past him. But just an incredible forecheck from the Jets' top line, forcing St. Louis to turn the puck over, and the Jets take advantage to make it 2-1, 7 minutes and 5 seconds into the third period.
You know what Kyle Connor was on that shift, Drew? Connor was an apex predator. That's what he was. Like, he was like, I'm going to take this puck and I'm going to do a special thing with it here, and I'm going to get it over to Alex Iafallo, and that's what he did. I mean, I thought that Connor was brilliant in this game. He had a scoring chance right before this, but like you said, he causes the turnover, doesn't have any panic, and just gets a nice little shot on net, and then obviously Iafallo buries the rebound. And you love to see it, right? Because there was a spotlight on Alex Iafallo when he was bumped up to the top line. It's one thing for him to be bumped up to the second line like he was with Lowry and Ehlers, Dave, but I don't think any of us are surprised. I mean, Iafallo, we've said this, even though Nito Niederreiter is the player who's actually from Switzerland, Iafallo is that Swiss Army knife that can go on any line, right? And he can play on the power play, he can kill penalties. He's been phenomenal, and I think that's why we all agree that it would be great if the Jets are able to re-sign him to however many years. But Kyle Connor was doing special things, and it's not just, his shot. It's not just, that he's got good passing ability. He's hunting pucks. He's forechecking. He's creating these turnovers. He's being, like Drew said, the Jets only had to kill 2 penalties in this game. Connor was out there as an effective penalty killer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was just really impressive. And that's not to take anything away from his line mates, but just on that particular shift, apex predator for sure.
Yeah, no question about it. And you just see his drive and his determination. And it was exemplified with that goal to make it 2-1, which proves to be the game-winning goal. And then the Jets really just go into shutdown mode from then on for the game. But they don't shut down and go into a defensive shell. Sorry.
Freudian slip there, Drew.
Yeah,
Freudian slip.
But you guys talked about it. They were still focused on driving the puck into the blue zone. They were focused on the offensive side of the game while being first and foremost defensively responsible. And that's what you want to see. You want to see a team win the game by not letting the opponent enter your zone. St. Louis, of course, did enter the zone, and Connor Hellebuyck had to be big and made a number of key saves. Mason Appleton looked like he put the game away, but he somehow missed on that empty net. St. Louis gets an opportunity going back the other way. Connor Hellebuyck steps up, and then eventually Adam Lowry, he gets the empty net. The St. Louis-born kid with 9 seconds left to go in the game, but he's the captain of the Winnipeg Jets. He wears Winnipeg through and through on his sleeve. He gets the Jets the 3-1 victory with his 16th of the year. Mark Scheifele, his 46th assist on the season, and it's a 3-1 victory for the Winnipeg Jets, Dave.
Yeah, and like you just said, Drew, it's kind of apropos that he gets a career high, sets the career high. Judy Owen with a little potpourri there, as a little minutia from Judy. But yeah,
do people still have potpourri in their homes? By the way, is that a thing, or is that very like 90s?
I don't think so. I'm not a big potpourri guy.
Like, people used to have potpourri like on the toilet tank, or on the vanity, so to speak. I was just curious. Maybe we can get some people in the chat. Do you have any potpourri in your home? Obviously, Dave was speaking figuratively there.
I was indeed. So anyways, I just think that it's appropriate. Like you said, Drew, the kid from St. Louis with the dagger. I thought Adam Lowry had a really good game, and we can list off all the Jets, and ultimately the Jets end up winning that game 3-1. And like we said, get to that 53rd all important franchise 53rd win, and I should say most importantly, they have that 5-point buffer over the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, and the Jets just announced a well-deserved day off tomorrow for the Winnipeg Jets. There will be no media availability tomorrow, so of course you'll have to keep it locked on illegalcurve.com. Because
that means Dave gets a day off, Drew.
Yeah,
nope,
we know.
I got to cover I'm going to Moose practice tomorrow.
Okay.
Well,
I was just going to do double duty.
Because Kieran Walton is going to be on the ice for the Manitoba Moose.
He was.
He signed his entry-level deal for the Winnipeg Jets organization starting next year. So it starts next year, but he's playing the rest of this season for the Manitoba Moose on an ATO, an amateur tryout. So that Kieran Walton will be wearing the Manitoba Moose jersey tomorrow, and I can say with a fair degree of confidence that Dave M is likely to be the only media member they are covering that. So you can be sure to keep it locked on illegalcurve.com for all the latest on Kieran Walton, the newest member of the Winnipeg Jets, farm system and
There you go.
draft pick to try and break through the ranks. That will wrap up the goal-by-goal recap, the game-by-game recap here, presented by Play Now. But when we come back on the Illegal Curve post-game show, much more on tonight's Winnipeg Jets victory over the St. Louis Blues. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you on a Monday night. Don't go anywhere. And as we go to break, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
Do our profits benefit your community?
No.
or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Ezra Ginsburg with you. Dave M. had to jet, so we said goodbye to him. He'll be back on Thursday night as we will be at Boston Pizza on Taylor Avenue for the Winnipeg Jets Dallas Stars game. Join us, please. The Illegal Curve watch party, the Illegal Curve live on location post-game show. We're looking forward to that on Thursday night. Before we go any further with tonight's analysis, we do have to make mention, of course, of the tragic news that the hockey world experienced and was announced shockingly earlier today. The passing of Greg Millen, one of hockey's foremost analysts, somebody that we certainly spent many a Saturday night listening to. An absolute stunner of news. I can't say that I knew him personally. We, of course, would have seen him around the arena on a few different occasions over the years. But from all the accounts, a fine man, a gentleman, and a better family man. So condolences, of course, go out to his friends and family. Just an absolute stunning way to start your night of hockey coverage with that tragic announcement earlier this evening, Ezzy. I know you tweeted about it, but we'd be remiss if we didn't say anything about it on the program as well.
Yeah, no, it's really sad. And we, as kids that were born in the early 80s, we grew up watching Greg Millen, and in an era of smaller goaltenders, right? Played for the St. Louis Blues and other teams, right? So yeah, just horrible news. So on behalf of all of us at IC, condolences to his friends and family, and just really tragic news coming out of the hockey world. And obviously, there's a lot of an outpouring of condolences on social media. So as you said, Drew, it's worth mentioning. And obviously he dies way too young, and there's no way to not awkwardly transition from that. But yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Really sad day for the hockey world.
You're right about that. There is no way to awkwardly segue off of that news, but I certainly wanted to mention it. Scott Arneal tonight spoke about the Connor Scheifele and Iafallo line. We've spoken about them and how effective they were in tonight's contest as well. Here's their line matched up against the Robert Thomas line. So again, not matched up against the St. Louis third line, not matched up against the St. Louis fourth line. This courtesy of our buddy Connor Hrabchuk. The shot attempts 22-7 in favor of the Scheifele, Connor, and Iafallo line. The scoring chances 10-2 in their favor, and their expected goals percentage 87%. Just an absolute dominant effort from that line. The high danger chances in general over the course of the 60 minutes tonight at 5-on-5, Ezzy, 17-4 in favor of the Winnipeg Jets. So
wow,
this was again a game.
It could have easily been a 5-1 or 6-1 game, like easily. That's why, you look at the score. Maybe passing, some people didn't watch this game, only watched the highlights. Like, this was one of the more dominant wins of the season for the Jets, right? The win against Dallas was a dominant win. In recent memory, obviously,
the win against Vegas.
My Devils were pretty badly dominated by the Jets as well.
We're talking about against good teams, though.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
Against,
fair enough. My Devils are not looking too good right now, but at least they're going to make the playoffs, right? I mean, there's something to be a little bit optimistic
in the East. You can make the playoffs by default.
Yeah, the East is definitely not as strong as the West this year. That's for sure. The Central alone, I mean, it's almost like you could have your own Stanley Cup playoffs just with the Central, with all the wins that are coming out of that division. But yeah, it was really one-sided, really impressive. And I said it again, I sound like a broken record, but really impressive coming off of a really disappointing loss to Utah. And you've said it before, Drew. I mean, you can't always get up for games this late in the season, but when you're battling for first in the division, first in the league, the conference, and you're going up against the hottest team in the league, the Jets have often elevated their games against the cream of the creme de la creme of the NHL. So a really impressive win. The stats don't lie. The eye test and the stats match up here. It was a dominant performance by the Jets, which is good for them, not only going into Thursday's game against Dallas, but just good for them to get those extra 2 points to give them some breathing room.
And then if you have Dallas on Thursday night and you get Nikolai Ehlers back and you get Neil Pionk back, well, and Colin Miller didn't play tonight either, and that was more due to illness. So you would assume that maybe by Thursday that illness will have run its course and he'll be back on the ice for the Winnipeg Jets. Well, all of a sudden, the injury bug, which was affecting you, maybe you've come through the other side on that injury bug, and you're getting a little bit better and a little healthier, because it sounds like Gabe Vilardi is also soon to be on the ice for the Winnipeg Jets. And boy, won't that be a boost to the Winnipeg Jets if you get him back in time for the start of the playoffs, or shortly after the start of the playoffs as well. I want to make mention, though, quickly, Hayden Fleury, Logan Stanley, that was the third pair for the Winnipeg.
Yeah, they were good tonight. Yeah.
They were certainly serviceable. And I don't think I would want to run with a Fleury Stanley pair, for a long period of time. But they were noticeable for the right reasons. There was that one play that Logan Stanley had, I think it was either late in the second or in the third, where I sort of said, gulp, like, don't do that, like a blind backhand pass across his own defensive zone, but he got away with it. But I thought Hayden Fleury and Logan Stanley stepped up big in an important role for the Winnipeg Jets tonight.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And like you said, I mean, we're not going to get into it because we obviously got into it on the Saturday show. It kind of remains to be seen what that third pair will look like once Neil Pionk is back, once Colin Miller is back. But you obviously want to see Logan Stanley on his left side. And most likely, I mean, I'm kind of leaning towards, in the playoffs, it is going to be Logan Stanley and Luke Schenn as the third pair. Right. I realize that, some people don't like that, but I mean, when Pionk is back, he's going to go back with Sandberg. We know that.
Luke Schenn is not a top 4 defenseman.
No, and he's done a good job. Like he was good tonight, but you want him kind of more in the 14 to 18 minute range, as opposed to the 20 to 24 minute range, which a second pair defenseman usually is around that range. So, but you're right, Drew. Hayden Fleury and Logan Stanley against the league's hottest team, they were good tonight. And Logan Stanley had some nice hits. But like you said, he almost turned the puck over once, and that's where he gets into trouble when he tries to do too much, when he overcommits. When he plays a simple game, and again, that's a cliche in hockey to play a simple game. That doesn't mean that you're playing. That's not a negative term. It's as a third pairing defenseman, you just want to take care of your own end. Yes, if you have an opportunity to jump up into the play, but that's not Logan Stanley's strength. His strength is being just a reliable, more of a defensive defenseman.
Right. And
when he tries to do too much, like he did against the LA Kings, was it with that turnover in the neutral zone, right? Or at the Kings blue line, wherever it was. That's when he gets into trouble, when he tries to do too much. So I agree that the third pair was good. And like you said, it looks like Colin Miller, because it's just an illness, he should be back in the lineup. But again, Neil Pionk could be back in the lineup as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. There's a lot of moving pieces.
Well, you're right. If Pionk's back and Miller's only at 60%, maybe you keep him out of the lineup again. Right. There's moving pieces. Again, the point is the Jets seem to be getting healthier. Now, of course, that can change in the course of one poorly placed slap shot or something along those lines. It can change in the blink of an eye. But for the time being, I would expect Ehlers and Pionk to play for the Winnipeg Jets on Thursday night. And that means
I would agree with that. Yep.
You're back to you're certainly close to as close to healthy as you've been over the course of the last month or thereabouts. Impressive victory for the Winnipeg Jets tonight. 3-1 over the St. Louis Blues. They stopped the Blues winning streak. They moved 5 points ahead of the Dallas Stars. The Stars, of course, with a game in hand. They'll make up that game tomorrow night against the Vancouver Canucks. So it'll be a night of scoreboard watching for the Winnipeg Jets, all leading up to the main event on Thursday night. The Jets in Dallas to face the Stars. Will be at Boston Pizza on Taylor Avenue. And of course, we want you to join us there as well. The Illegal Curve watch party and the Illegal Curve post-game show emanating from our home away from home, Boston Pizza on Taylor Avenue. That'll do it for tonight's post-game show following the Jets and the Blues. If you haven't already done so, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and turn your notifications on. That way you'll get alerted on Thursday night when we go live with another edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show. We'll do it again on Saturday morning. We do it after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. A big thanks to all the sponsors of Illegal Curve who make the website a possibility, who make the post-game show a possibility, and who make the Saturday show a possibility. The title sponsor is our friends at Play Now, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Holt Dental, Boston Pizza, City Place, and Seagram's. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. For Dave Minuk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Until Thursday night at Boston Pizza on Taylor Avenue, we wish you good night and good luck, and thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.